magic carpet has flown them to Safi in Morocco in a matter of hours. From this ancient Phoenician port, poor Hayadal has sailed the previous year. Now he wants the Indians to build RA II from 12 tons of papyrus reeds he has transported from Lake Tana in Ethiopia. They find these reeds are even bigger and better than their own on Lake Titicaca. They rope thousands of reeds together into 2 huge bundles. Each bundle is lashed independently, using only a single spiral rope, and, as normal with them, a central bundle disappears from sight as the long ropes are pulled tight. A further bundle is added on top to each side to make a wider deck. After 6 weeks' work, RA II is nearing completion. The Indians from Lake Titicaca are so eager to rejoin their families that they use only 2/3 of the available reeds. The boat they make is much smaller than RA I, 10 feet shorter, in fact, with far less volume than Hayadal has intended. RA II is first launched in dry land and is navigated through the streets of Safi by Norman Baker, the expedition pilot. A ship like something out of ancient Egypt, but built by South American Indians. The wife of the local pasha baptizes RA II in goat's milk. Hayadal's hopes are high, but he still has the bitter memory of his previous boat having failed. Under the flag of the United Nations, RA II slides down the slipway, dry as blotting paper.
She floated like a paper swan on top of the waves. After 10 days in the harbor, we left port and sailed into the open Atlantic, heavily loaded with 6 tons of cargo and superstructure. For 2 days, we drove southwards along the African coast with good wind and high speed. We made an average of 4 knots, doing 95 nautical miles in 24 hours. Although we were immensely pleased with our speed, we soon had another serious problem to worry about. RA II started sinking much faster than RA I. Our new ship seemed to be too small for the many tons of cargo she carried. The heavy load pressed us deeper and deeper into the water. While we clipped ourselves fast with lifelines so as not to fall overboard ourselves, we started to throw away anything not desperately needed. Our papyrus lifeboat went first. Santiago, our quartermaster like last time, went carefully through his inventory to find anything we could dump. This seemed to help. The sinking stopped. We continued our voyage in the direction of distant America, due west.
They are still in the coastal shipping lanes. After dark, their tiny paraffin lamps are hard to see from busy modern ships. The night watch plays his flashlight against their sail, hopefully to give a better warning. After 2 days and nights of excellent sailing, they suddenly come to a stop. They are becalmed. And they still have an enormous distance to go to America, most of which they have covered the year before.
As we woke up the third morning, the wind had died away. Our sail was no longer filled, and we found ourselves drifting helplessly to and fro without any visible progress. In the calm water, it was easy to observe small black clots of solidified oil. We had discovered the previous year endless quantities of oil lamps drifting about in the Atlantic Ocean, and the samples we delivered to the United Nations then caused such wide interest that we decided this time to undertake a systematic daily investigation. The lamps were black and soft like tar or asphalt. We saw them every day, and sometimes they carried passengers of various kinds. In this case, a tiny crab. Day after day...
As they drift aimlessly in the current between the Canary Islands and the coast of the Sahara, birds of many kinds fly by and frequently settle on board. They're fed and cared for, and Ra II begins to look like a floating aviary. Even a whale joins them, but is not close enough to have a decent portrait taken.
Among the birds was a ring-marked pigeon from Spain. We added another message to its foot. Stopped on Ra II, 21st of May. Refusing to return to land like the other birds, the dove chose to stay with us as a symbol of the multinational expedition right across the Atlantic Ocean.
Familiar birds from northern lands, like old friends to Heyerdahl, pay visits to Ra II, and so do more exotic birds from the tropics. They seem to think the bundle boat is their nest. Without wind, it seems pointless to keep on steering, so they leave the rudder oars to take care of themselves. Instead, they begin swimming to tidy up the reeds below, and Surial, the frogman, uses his underwater camera. They make a disturbing discovery. With too little papyrus to carry too much cargo, more than half of the reed boat has been pressed below the surface. But as far as they can judge, the sinking appears to have stopped. Others arrive to make an inspection, including this grouper.
I was anxious myself to inspect the papyrus from underneath, and even more so the extremely thin rope which the Indians had insisted on using, claiming that the pressure would be evenly distributed along the continuous spiral. I found everything in perfect order.
Their floating aquarium includes a number of striped pilot fish, usually the hangers-on of sharks. They seem just as willing to attach themselves to Ra. Jellyfish and other members of that family drift by. In one area, particularly polluted with oil, thousands of them are floating about, dead.
Even when we swam in clean water, small clots of oil often had to be brushed aside with our hands.
Safi, the monkey, is just as fed up with the drifting as anybody else. They even resort to rowing. As idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean.
Finally, the wind returned, and we moved so fast that the lifebuoy had to be trailed behind on a rope as a safety precaution in case anybody fell overboard. It would be a last chance. We could not stop or turn back. We lived in intimate contact with the ocean. That is why we detected the pollution not visible from a big ship. From now on, all bathing had to be done inside a net. We were 8 men from 8 countries sleeping in the same basket. A Russian next to an American, an Arab from Egypt next to a Jew. There was ample fuel on board for a serious conflagration. Our paper boat was loaded with psychological petrol, and the heat generated by friction could only be extinguished by the endless waves.
Every day, Hayadar records experiences which make him understand the problems involved in ancient reed boat navigation. The nearest land is hidden in mist, but according to Baker, they must have just passed the Canary Islands. That is one map they won't need again. This time, like last, they carry food and water exactly as they had seen the ancient Egyptians do on the bas-reliefs in the tombs of the pharaohs. Some of their water is kept in goatskin bags, but much of it in big earthenware jars, as is most of their food. Almonds. Hard-baked bread, as in Pharaoh's Egypt. Raisins. different kinds of nuts, dates and various dried fruits. Cello, an ancient African expedition diet made from honey, ground nuts, flour, and other nourishing ingredients. Eggs, preserved in lime and water. Butter, salted and boiled in Berber fashion. They have plenty of ingredients to cook some delicious meals on their little paraffin stove.
We represented 8 different languages, but generally managed to communicate in English, French, or Italian. I was really happy with my multinational companions.
There are 8 men instead of 7 on the RA II voyage. All of the original crew are on board except Abdullah of Chad, Africa, who could not come. Instead, they have along Madani Ait Uhani from Morocco, a hotel manager,
Oh, you slob. Anyone who drinks soup from a cup with 2 hands has got to...
and in addition to him, a Japanese cameraman, Kei Ohara, who has never sailed an ocean and who cooks Oriental dishes when he isn't taking pictures.
Fantastic job. Yes.